In the heart of downtown Atlanta, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, two strangers' lives became forever intertwined in a moment that would challenge our preconceptions and remind us of our shared humanity. The intersection of Pine Street and 4th Avenue was usually busy with the usual rush hour traffic, but today it would become the stage for an extraordinary tale of heroism that transcends political divides. James, a 34-year-old construction worker, was heading home from his shift, his pickup truck's dashboard adorned with a well-worn Trump 2024 cap. He had just finished a grueling 12-hour workday and was looking forward to dinner with his family when fate had other plans. Through his rearview mirror, he noticed a blue sedan weaving erratically through traffic, its driver clearly in distress. Behind the wheel of the blue sedan was Sarah, a 29-year-old elementary school teacher whose car proudly displayed a Biden-Harris bumper sticker. Unknown to others on the road, she was experiencing a severe diabetic episode, her vision blurring as her blood sugar plummeted dangerously low. In a matter of seconds, her car began to drift across lanes, heading straight toward a concrete barrier. What happened next would be captured by multiple dashcams and smartphone videos, quickly becoming a powerful symbol of unity in our divided times. James, without a moment's hesitation, maneuvered his truck to create a protective barrier, potentially saving Sarah from a catastrophic collision. But that was just the beginning of this remarkable story. The rain was coming down harder now, and the evening traffic had ground to a halt. Bystanders watched in awe as James sprinted through the downpour, his fluorescent work vest gleaming under the street lights. As he approached Sarah's car, he could see she was barely conscious, her head slumped against the steering wheel. Drawing from his emergency response training from his construction site, James knew exactly what to do. With the help of another motorist, he managed to safely get Sarah out of her car and immediately recognized the signs of a diabetic emergency, something he was familiar with because of his younger sister's condition. What makes this story particularly compelling isn't just the dramatic rescue, but what unfolded in the following moments. As James administered emergency glucose tablets he kept in his truck, again, thanks to his sister, neither he nor Sarah had any idea about each other's political leanings. It was simply one human being helping another in their moment of need. The story might have ended there, but a local news crew happened to be stuck in the same traffic jam. Their cameras captured the entire scene, two people from opposite ends of the political spectrum, whose paths would have likely never crossed otherwise, brought together by circumstance and compassion. As Sarah began to regain consciousness, she noticed James's Trump cap, just as he spotted her car's bumper sticker. Their eyes met, and what happened next would challenge everything we think we know about the divide in our country. But before we get to that part of the story, we need to understand the events that led both James and Sarah to be on that exact stretch of road at that precise moment. Some might call it coincidence, others destiny, but the series of decisions and circumstances that brought these two individuals together would prove to be as fascinating as the rescue itself. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that beneath our political differences, our capacity for compassion and human connection remains undiminished. What unfolded next would not only change both their lives forever, but would also spark a conversation that would reach far beyond the rain-soaked streets of Atlanta, touching hearts and minds across the nation. Earlier that day, James had almost called in sick. His youngest daughter had been up all night with a fever, and he barely slept a wink. But being the sole breadwinner for his family of 4, he couldn't afford to miss a day's work. As he kissed his wife goodbye that morning, she handed him a bag of glucose tablets, reminding him to give them to his sister during their planned dinner that evening. Little did he know those tablets would serve a different purpose. Sarah's day had started just as unexpectedly. A last-minute parent-teacher conference had run longer than planned, throwing off her carefully managed diabetes schedule. She had rushed through lunch, not properly monitoring her insulin levels as she usually did. Her dedication to her third-grade students often meant putting their needs before her own, a choice that would prove dangerous on this fateful afternoon. As the two strangers faced each other in the rain, their initial awkward silence was broken by the sound of approaching sirens. The paramedics would later praise James's quick thinking, noting that his immediate response had likely prevented a tragedy. but it was what happened during those crucial minutes before the ambulance arrived that would capture the nation's attention. Despite her initial disorientation, Sarah couldn't help but notice the kindness in James's eyes as he helped her sit up. "My sister's diabetic," he explained, his voice gentle despite his imposing frame. "I always carry these tablets, just in case." The simple act of sharing this personal detail created an unexpected bridge between them. Meanwhile, onlookers had gathered, their phones recording what they thought would be just another traffic incident. Instead, they captured something far more meaningful. A woman in a business suit stepped forward, holding an umbrella over both James and Sarah. Another bystander offered his jacket. In those moments, nobody cared about political affiliations or bumper stickers. They were just humans helping humans. The local news crew, stuck in traffic just 3 cars behind, had initially planned to report on a city council meeting. Their cameramen, sensing something special was unfolding, began filming what would become one of the most viewed local news segments of the year. But even they couldn't have predicted how this story would resonate with people across the country. As Sarah's condition stabilized, she reached for her phone, her hands still shaking. "I need to call my students' parents," she worried aloud. "I'm supposed to be hosting a reading circle in an hour." Without hesitation, James pulled out his own phone, offering to help contact the school. It was this simple gesture that revealed another surprising connection. His sister taught at the same school. The growing crowd watched as these two individuals, who represented what many considered opposing sides of America's political divide, worked together with genuine concern for each other's well-being. Their interactions, captured on various devices, would soon challenge countless assumptions about the deepening political divide in our country. But there was more to this story than met the eye. As the paramedics arrived and began their assessment, a detail emerged that would add another layer to this already compelling narrative. Among Sarah's belongings was a folded newspaper article, its headline partially visible, containing information that would connect these two strangers in an even more remarkable way. The rain continued to fall, and traffic remained at a standstill, but something was shifting in the atmosphere around that intersection. The gathered crowd, initially drawn by the prospect of drama or disaster, found themselves witnessing something far more powerful, a reminder of our shared humanity in an increasingly divided world. As the paramedics prepared to transport Sarah to the hospital, she grabbed James's hand, wanting to say something that would set in motion a chain of events nobody could have anticipated. The partially visible newspaper article in Sarah's bag wasn't just any story. It was a feature about a local community center-facing closure, a place that had been a safe haven for countless families regardless of their backgrounds. As James caught a glimpse of the headline, his expression changed. This was the same center where his sister had received crucial support during her early battles with diabetes, and where he now volunteered on weekends, teaching basic construction skills to young adults. Sarah's grip on James's hand tightened as she struggled to speak. "I know who you are," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. The paramedics paused their preparations, sensing the gravity of the moment. The news crew inched closer, their cameras capturing what was becoming far more than a simple rescue story. The crowd around them had grown, with cars stuck in traffic and their occupants now fully invested in the unfolding scene. Through the light rain, dozens of phones recorded as Sarah reached into her bag with trembling hands, pulling out the wrinkled newspaper. The article's full headline came into view: "Local Heroes Unite to Save Community Center. Unlikely Allies Cross Political Divide." 2 weeks earlier, both Sarah and James had separately attended a community meeting about the center's future, sitting on opposite sides of the room, unaware of each other's presence. While their political beliefs had led them to support different candidates, their passion for community service had brought them to the same cause. The article detailed how various community members, despite their differences, were working together to save the center. James's face lit up with recognition. "You're the teacher," he said, "the one who started the after-school program." Sarah nodded, a weak smile crossing her face. She had been heading to the center that very afternoon to help organize a fundraising event when her medical emergency struck. The gathering crowd watched in rapt attention as another layer of connection emerged between these two seemingly opposite individuals. The news crew's microphone picked up fragments of their conversation, capturing a moment that would soon resonate across social media platforms and news networks nationwide. But just as this revelation seemed to bridge their differences, a tense moment arose. A voice from the crowd called out something politically charged, threatening to shatter the delicate harmony of the moment. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as onlookers held their breath, wondering how James and Sarah would respond. The paramedics announced they needed to transport Sarah immediately, her condition requiring urgent medical attention. As they prepared to lift her onto the stretcher, she clutched the newspaper article tightly, trying to tell James something crucial about the community center, information that could change everything. The rain had finally stopped, but dark clouds still loomed overhead. Traffic remained at a standstill, creating an impromptu amphitheater for this human drama. The news crew's cameras continued rolling as James leaned in to hear Sarah's urgent message, their differences in political beliefs now seeming trivial compared to the weight of what she was about to reveal. At that precise moment, Sarah's phone rang. It was from the community center's board of directors. The decision about the center's future had been made, but before anyone could learn what it was, Sarah's condition took a sudden turn. The paramedics rushed into action, and James found himself holding both the newspaper article and a decision that could affect not just their lives, but the entire community's future. As the paramedics rushed Sarah into the ambulance, James stood there, rainwater dripping from his work vest, holding her phone and the newspaper article. The missed call notification from the community center board pulsed on the screen, but it was another incoming call that made his heart skip a beat. Sarah's students were already gathering at the center for the reading circle, waiting for their teacher. The news crew captured the moment James made a split-second decision. He turned to the camera, still rolling, and spoke from his heart. "Politics don't matter when community does," he said, his voice carrying across the now silent crowd. He announced he would head to the center to explain the situation to the waiting children, but what he discovered there would add another extraordinary twist to this already remarkable day. Upon arriving at the community center, James found not just Sarah's students, but also a gathering of local residents. The building's lights were dim. They'd been having trouble paying the electricity bills. Among the crowd, he recognized faces from both sides of the political aisle, all wearing concerned expressions. The center's elderly director, Mrs. Thompson, approached him with tears in her eyes. It turned out the board's call wasn't just about the center's possible closure. They had received an anonymous donation that morning, enough to keep the center running for several months. The catch? The donor would only release the funds if the community could demonstrate genuine unity, proof that people with different political beliefs could work together for the common good. Back at the hospital, Sarah had stabilized, but she was frantically trying to communicate something to the medical staff. She kept mentioning a hidden document in her classroom, something crucial about the community center's history. The nurses, seeing her distress, contacted the school's janitor to search her desk. Meanwhile, the video of James's rescue had gone viral, spreading across social media platforms faster than anyone could have anticipated. Comments poured in from across the country, but one caught everyone's attention. A message from someone claiming to be the anonymous donor, watching how events were unfolding in real time. The crowd at the community center grew larger as news of the viral video spread. James found himself standing before them, still in his work clothes, trying to make sense of the situation. That's when his phone buzzed. A text from his sister who worked at Sarah's school. The janitor had found something in Sarah's desk that changed everything they thought they knew about the community center's significance. As thunder rolled in the distance, James's sister rushed into the center clutching a yellowed envelope. The document inside revealed a shocking truth about the center's founding decades ago, a story of unlikely friendship between two political opponents that mirrored James and Sarah's current situation almost exactly. The news crew, having followed James to the center, continued filming as he opened the envelope with trembling hands. The gathered crowd pressed closer, phones recording, as he began to read the contents aloud. But before he could finish, urgent news arrived from the hospital about Sarah's condition, along with a message she insisted had to be delivered immediately to James. The atmosphere in the community center grew electric with anticipation. The anonymous donor was watching. Sarah had an urgent message to share, and the document in James's hands held secrets that could reshape their understanding of their community's history. As rain began falling again outside, James stood at the crossroads of past and present, holding pieces of a puzzle that were about to come together in the most unexpected way. The yellow document in James's hands revealed an astonishing truth. The community center had been founded 40 years ago by two former political rivals who, like James and Sarah, had been brought together by a near-tragic accident. These founders had created a secret trust fund for the center, meant to be revealed only when history repeated itself, when two people from opposite political sides came together to save someone's life. As James read this aloud, his phone lit up with Sarah's message from the hospital. Her voice, now stronger, came through on speaker. "Check the back of the article, James. Look at the donor's initials." The crowd watched as he flipped over the newspaper clipping, and there, in faded ink, were the initials matching those on the original trust document. The anonymous donor wasn't just any wealthy philanthropist. It was the granddaughter of one of the center's founders. She had been waiting for a sign that her grandparents' vision of unity still had a place in today's world. The viral video of James's rescue of Sarah had given her exactly that proof. But the real twist came when Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her eyes glistening with tears. She revealed that she had been there on the day of the original accident that brought the founders together. "History doesn't just repeat itself," she announced, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "It gives us a chance to make things right again." The live news feed captured the moment when the donor herself walked into the community center, a humble postal worker who had inherited her grandfather's belief in community over division. She carried with her not just the promised donation but additional funding secured from others who had been moved by James and Sarah's story. Through a video call patched into the center's main screen, Sarah joined the gathering from her hospital bed. Her students crowded around the camera, their faces glowing with excitement. The device that had captured the accident footage was projected alongside, showing the moment of rescue from multiple angles. A testament to how a split-second decision to help another human being could spark a movement. James stood in the center of it all, still in his rain-soaked work clothes, as the donor announced an even bigger surprise. The trust fund wasn't just for keeping the center open. It was seed money for a nationwide initiative to create similar spaces across the country, places where political differences would take a backseat to community needs. Sarah, now fully recovered, shared the final piece of the puzzle. Her father had been one of the paramedics who responded to the original accident 40 years ago. She had grown up hearing the story, but never knew she would become part of its continuation. The newspaper article she'd been carrying was her way of researching this connection when fate stepped in. As the news crews captured the celebration that erupted in the community center, James's phone buzzed one last time. It was a social media notification. Their story had reached the highest offices in the nation. Both former presidents Trump and Biden had shared the video, each adding the same simple comment: "This is America at its best." The rain outside had finally stopped, and a rainbow appeared over the community center, a fitting symbol for the bridge built between divided communities. But as James and Sarah's story seemed to reach its perfect conclusion, Mrs. Thompson stepped forward one last time, holding another envelope that would ensure their tale was far from over. Mrs. Thompson's final envelope contained photographs from the center's very first day, pictures that showed how the original founders had transformed an abandoned warehouse into a place of hope. Among these faded images was a handwritten note that read, "When the world seems most divided, look for the helpers. They'll show you the way back to unity." 1 month after the accident, the community center buzzed with new energy. Sarah had fully recovered and returned to teaching, but now her classroom extended beyond school walls. Every afternoon, she and James co-taught a new program called Building Bridges, where construction skills merged with community service. Students learned not just how to build structures, but how to build connections with people different from themselves. The viral video had sparked something larger than anyone could have imagined. Similar centers across the country began reaching out, sharing their own stories of unexpected friendships forming across political divides. The Trust Fund, now transformed into the Unity Through Action initiative, had already helped establish 5 new community centers in different states. James's construction company had become an enthusiastic supporter, offering apprenticeships to students from the center's vocational program. His crew, once divided along political lines, now wore hard hats with a simple message: build together, stand together. The change wasn't just visible in their work, it showed in the way they talked, listened, and worked through disagreements. Sarah's 3rd grade class had turned their experience into an award-winning school project about community heroes. Their hand-drawn pictures of James's rescue hung proudly in the center's main hall, alongside the historical photos from Mrs. Thompson's envelope. The children's artwork captured something the news cameras couldn't: the pure, uncomplicated way young hearts view acts of kindness. The anonymous donor, no longer anonymous, became a regular volunteer at the center. Her grandfather's vision had evolved into something even more meaningful, a living testament to the power of looking past labels to see the humanity in others. She often shared how watching James's rescue of Sarah had given her the courage to step forward and continue her family's legacy. 1 year to the day after the accident, the community gathered again at the center. The intersection where it all began had been renamed Unity Corner, marked by a simple plaque telling their story. But more meaningful than any official recognition were the everyday scenes of former political opponents working side by side, sharing stories, solving problems, and discovering their common ground. As James and Sarah stood before the gathered crowd, they didn't talk about politics or divisions. Instead, they shared stories about the lives touched, the friendships formed, and the barriers broken down. The news crews were there again, but this time they captured something subtler: the natural, comfortable way former strangers now treated each other as family. Mrs. Thompson, watching from her favorite chair, smiled as she witnessed her life's work bloom into something beyond her wildest dreams. The center had become more than a building. It was a blueprint for bringing people together, a living proof that what unites us is stronger than what divides us. The story of a Trump supporter saving a Biden supporter's life had evolved into something much more universal. A reminder that beneath our political labels, we're all just people capable of extraordinary kindness. As the evening wound down and families began heading home, James and Sarah's story had become everyone's story, a testament to the enduring power of human connection over division. And there, prominently displayed above the center's entrance, hung the words that started it all, now illuminated in warm light: when the world seems most divided, look for the helpers. They'll show you the way back to unity. Below it, someone had added a simple truth: we're all helpers, waiting for our moment to prove it.